Hi, I am Kristen Nettopak with the Magic Grove. It's Friday, and this is Tea and Magic, my favorite show ever because I get to bring on a very special guest to talk about all things magical. And today I have a girl who I absolutely adore. She's a photographer, she's a content creatrix, she's a light witch, and a mentor. Melissa Ravin, how are you doing today?
Hi, sister. I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. So just so you all know, because I know everyone on the show, right? I just bring all these beautiful guests on. And I think it's very rare that I don't know them because I'm surrounded by so many amazing people. And this show really is about letting you guys into their world and introducing you to all of these. Like I said, Melissa is a mentor. She hosts classes, she hosts sessions, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But the show is really here to shine a light on all of the beautiful souls I know. Melissa is just one of them. So I'm so appreciative that you're here. I met Melissa in 2018 at a Temple Body Arts training that was a year-long program, and she took some of my photos, and I'm going to show you some of that in a minute. But first, I want to ask you, what is it you are drinking, my friend?
I am drinking ceremonial grade organic cacao that comes from Guatemala, but I got it in Costa Rica while I was over there, and it is my favorite elixir.
Mine too. We were just talking about that, right? It's so uplifting. It just makes, what was my friend was telling me the other day that cacao, I'm probably going to get this wrong, you guys, so don't quote me on it. But she was just saying that cacao is a serotonin booster. So when
hmm
you drink it, it really does kind of enhance your mood. And I know that I'm always in a great mood when I'm drinking it. Now you said ceremonial. I just want to ask you about this because I know that you also host cacao ceremonies. You had a workshop that we're going to talk about. And what is the beauty of cacao? Why is it used in so many ceremonies and so many circles?
Well, it's been used since Mayan times, so it's an ancient plant medicine. It comes from this beautiful fruit. And this particular cacao is harvested by families of women in Guatemala. So it's like the intention of where it's coming from, and then bringing that intention all the way up into when you're in your kitchen creating it. Like every morning, I have a ritual. I light sage, I put it together with some maca powder and some mushroom powders, and really just, singing to it and giving it all the love because you're drinking it, it's going into your body. And for me, as someone that struggled with depression and mental illness most of my life, this is a medicine for me. Like it opens my
Mm.
heart, it grounds me down, it helps me get into my creativity and into my yoga and meditation practices as well.
I can agree with that. That is why I incorporate it into my everyday morning. It just really helps me get into that happy place. And you're right, it is medicine. And you could just tell Melissa's a witch because of the way that anyone that takes that much care into their tea and their foods, I'm like, she's a witch.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. I want to take a minute here, you guys, before we dive into this session and really get deep into Melissa's thoughts here. I wanted to show you guys some of her work because it is absolutely phenomenal. I posted it on the page. If you're watching this later, I'm going to have the links to it in the description. If you're watching it on YouTube, if you're watching it on Facebook, definitely check her work out and hire her because she's amazing. Like I said, I had sessions with her. So it is Mercury retrograde. I'm going to try to share my screen here. So let's see what happens. Let's see. Share screen. I'm going to see if I got it. Yeah, so this is Melissa's work. She is phenomenal. She hosts sessions, which we'll ask her about in a minute, called Goddess Sessions, because I love what you do. So I just want to open a few of these here because I mean, this one just stands out to me so much. I feel like this woman is just calling upon Kali, like her badass strength. Like, do you want to talk a little about some of these images I pull up?
I would love to. This
Yeah.
is such an amazing sister and goddess, Carolina, and we found this epic spot when we were in Hawaii together, and we were calling in Lilith, and she said this beautiful ceremony to call in the dark goddess before we even started photographing, and she really went in and embodied this. And like, you could feel her presence. I mean, if you turn around and look behind where I was shooting, I was standing on the edge of this huge cliff with the ocean like crashing in the background. And that's why
Wow.
it's so windy, like her veils flying, like it was so magical. And, you know, us combined with me documenting and her calling in the goddess, like really, it was a really powerful session. Very
Oh
beautiful.
my gosh. And as we're looking at this image, I mean, this is a perfect time to touch base on this is how do you go about um, hosting these goddess sessions and really helping women step into this power, step into like whatever is alive with them at that moment that
Mm,
they're creating?
that's a good question. Again, it goes back to intention. So even before the actual day of the photo session, I do what's called a vision call. So we get to dive in deep on what the intention is for the session, what they're trying to call through in the images, what the purpose is, and really having a deep intention to plan wardrobe and props and where the location's going to be, and really getting an idea of what it's going to look like. Instead of just like showing up all done up and taking photos, there's a lot more intention that goes behind it. And then the day of the actual photo session, before we start, we take some moments to do a guided womb meditation. And this helps, I feel, to ground down into the earth and also connect to the land
Mm,
and really go back to what the intention is and call that intention forward so it becomes super clear. And then during the session, I'm there to support with breath work and other somatic practices. I like to weave in dance, and again, breath work is such a huge part of it, especially if you start feeling nervous, because when I get photographed, I get super nervous. And for me, what really helps is coming back to the breath and having a facilitator there to remind me to breathe, to remind me to shake and dance and move. So the images become more natural instead of these like stiff posed images. They're all about movement and flow.
Speaking of movement and flow, this is a mutual friend, Kate, and I
Yay!
absolutely love this photo of her. I saw it in your session, and I was like, "This is great." Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to post the link to her website. Like I said, you guys, I definitely think you need to go. You're going to be obsessed with her Instagram, but I'm going to stop sharing for a moment there so we get your beautiful face back. And if you guys are listening to this on the podcast later, you can find the links as well. So you can follow along. But I want to ask you, how did you discover that this was your path? Because you're obviously holding a container for these women. Not only are you diving into your depth of a creatrix, this photographer, this woman who is capturing light witch, like you said, is just capturing these beautiful moments. But how did you discover that holding the space for these women in nature was your calling, or part of your calling, I should say?
Mm. So there's a couple different moments in my life that led me to this. I would say the first one was in high school. It started junior year of high school. I was really struggling, as I said before, with mental illness and depression. And I took a photography class, and one of the assignments was a self portrait. And I was like, oh, I do not want to be seen. I had like body dysmorphia. I was not comfortable in my body. I was struggling with, I was a super tomboy, did not want to be feminine. So I was just in a very awkward space. And I actually did the project and took a portrait of myself, and it represented all the words that I could not speak because I felt like I couldn't express how I was feeling all the time. So it gave everything I was feeling a life and a breath. And I started to see myself over time, because I kept doing self portraits in creative ways. I started to see myself as art, and I started to heal my body dysmorphia and even help heal my depression, because it gave me an outlet, you know, instead of getting back into self-destructive patterns. When I would feel depressed, I would go outside in nature and take portraits of myself, and it transformed the way that I saw myself. So that was the first step in this. The next one was when I moved to New York City. I was photographing weddings and portraits full time, and there was this desire for boudoir photography. In in particular, it was like the brides giving gifts to the husbands before. And I didn't want to shoot them in a studio. I never liked shooting in the studio. I had done it multiple times. I just think there's something so magical about nature. So I'd take these women, mostly in New York City, and we go upstate and we go on a hike and find a spot in nature and photograph these beautiful, intimate photos of these women, either in lingerie or nude, as gifts for their husbands. But what I started seeing happening over time was these women would call me after in tears, just being like, "You have no idea what you did for me. Like, I've never seen my body in this way." And I mean, a lot of these women were absolutely gorgeous, but they just didn't see it in that light where they could truly see and appreciate their bodies and to feel comfortable. And I'm not only holding a container for them to feel safe, there's also the container, the bigger container of Mother Nature that's holding us within her. So it just kept happening over time. And that's like the second step of what led me to the goddess session. And then the third one is when I took Sophia's Temple Body Arts training, that year-long program. And I photographed the retreat and I offered these private sessions. And during that time, I was really connecting to all the different goddess energy. And when I first heard about it, I was like, I'm not a goddess. How can I connect to like the goddess energy? And then over doing her program, like the goddess is within all of us. Like all these different archetypes of the goddess are already within us. And I was gifted more tools to bring that out, to bring out my femininity, to heal that wound within me and truly step into offering this to the world. And not only that, but my 10 years of dance experience, 10 years of doing yoga and meditation, and then doing the Temple Body Arts facilitator program, all of that combined was like the birthing of the goddess session. So that's where it was really born. And it's grown so much from there. But it's so beautiful to look back at all the little steps that have gotten me to this point, because it's so magical. And for so long I was like, my dream was to be a New York City photographer, right? And I did it, and I was like, this doesn't fulfill me. Like, I don't want to just photograph portraits and weddings. Like, there's something bigger and deeper. And when I started photographing goddess sessions, I felt like my purpose in life fully came into alignment with all of the things that had happened in my past, and it just started to flow. But holy shit, was it scary to say yes and jump into that, because I'm like, went from photographing 30 weddings a year to photographing retreats and goddess sessions, which I didn't know anybody else that was doing that. So it was really scary. But as soon as I started doing it, everything kind of started to fall into place, because it is my soul path and my soul purpose.
There are so many juicy things that I want to touch base on what you just said. I mean, so beautiful, Melissa. I love hearing your story. I think first and foremost, for everyone that's watching, Melissa and I were just talking about it. We are shooting this live at the end of June. We're about to hit the July eclipse, and we're about to hit July 2020, which is a huge month for transformation. I'm going to take that back. We've already been asked to transform over the last few years. July is the month to finally say no. I mean, there is no going back at this point. You finally say no. We must all say yes to our soul purpose. And I think a lot of people are curious, what is my soul purpose? How do I find it? And I loved what you just said. I want to start with that, is that you feel it in your body, right? When you are aligned, it is scary, but as soon as you say yes, it's like everything in the world, money, location, relationships, it shifts, and it's a little scary because things do shift and fall away, and you're like, okay, what's happening? But at the same time, beautiful new things become in alignment with you and come into your life. And it sounds like that was your experience as well.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love that. So what the other thing that you had mentioned that I really want to dive into is that we're speaking of the goddess. the feminine figure, and that's the divine feminine. That could be a man, it could be a woman. It's the goddess in all of us. So when we talk about the goddess, we're not just speaking about women, we are speaking about that divine feminine energy, and the ultimate divine feminine energy is the earth. And I loved how you mentioned that you were not only holding space for these women, but for your clients, but the earth was holding space for both of you, for your creativity. And I would love to know the experience that you've had. If you can dive into a story or an experience that you have had with the earth that was that powerful, where you really felt like she's holding me. Because I think that right now, during this age, it's so important for us to reconnect to nature. And that's really the topic of today, is like, during these times, how do we reconnect to Mama Gaia? How do we allow her to hold us in safety so we aren't relying on all of these illusions and material things that are pretty much going away?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I feel super blessed because I grew up in the forests of Canada, of Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, and then New Hampshire. So I have this very deep connection with the forest and with Mother Nature that's been developed over time. And I think anybody can do that, especially during this time. I just did a goddess session 2 weeks ago for the first time in a few months. And it was so powerful just to be outside, because we've been so inward and inside
Mm.
and almost scared to go out. So to have this like huge release of just being in nature, just going for a hike, was so powerful. And I just going out and finding a place, even if you're in New York City, if you're in a city, there's definitely parks. There's Central Park in New York City. There's green spaces everywhere. You can take buses to get there. Make sure you're safe, get there, bring a tapestry with you, and just sit down and connect with Mother Earth. Close your eyes, meditate, walk barefoot, feel the earth. It's so, so healing. I would say it's one of my best and favorite medicines, is just being with the earth and really listening and opening up your eyes, and also really seeing like a wide-eyed vision what's around you. And you'll start to really appreciate all the small things, like the hummingbird or the two bees making love, or like there's just so much magic around us, and we just have to tune in and turn on to that. And as far as a particular moment for me, the one that's coming through for me was 2 years ago. I decided I would hire a photographer to photograph me. It was a male photographer, a friend of mine. But that was a huge block for me. I'm like, cool, I gotta, like, if I'm doing this and I'm preaching this, I have to turn the camera around on me too. Because for
Wow.
a long time, I was doing self-portraits, and that's great. But to have another person photograph you is a totally different experience. And we were in Costa Rica, and I got out into the ocean, and I just totally lost myself in the ocean. I said thank you to the land, got down on my knees, and I was just like rubbing sand on myself and just like totally forgetting that the camera was even there. And it was so healing. And it was like with the sand, I was like a snake, just like peeling off all this old skin and all these old thoughts that no longer served me anymore. And I remember it being so powerful. When I came out of the ocean, I was just super present with the camera, and I knew exactly what wanted to come through. And I felt like this beautiful divine channel. And we can all access that, right? Through
Mm.
the ocean, through walking in the forest, through going into our backyard and just listening and watching. So I could think of like a million beautiful moments where I've deeply connected to nature. And that is such a big part of the goddess sessions. And I don't remember if I said this before, but the grounding down into Mama Gaia before the goddess session is so, so important. And when I got photographed, I realized how important it was to meditate and ground down first, and to thank the land, to thank the ancestors that came before, to give thanks to the space that you're using as a backdrop.
So powerful. I know for myself, I live in Oregon. We live in Oregon, so we know how gorgeous the land is here. And just moving here from Los Angeles was such a huge difference. First of all, I lived in Los Angeles, which was crazy. I don't know, I'm not even sure how I survived there for 12 years. But the last few years I moved to Topanga, which was amazing. And then I moved here. And I can attest to that, that every single day I go out and I'm either taking a walk on the ocean, or I'm going for a walk or hike through the trees, or I'm going down to the creek, and grounding into that energy is what allows me to clear and to connect. And that is where I get my writing channeling from. And I think for most creators, people that might feel like I'm stuck, or I don't have any ideas, or I'm feeling a creative block, I think that's such a great place to start, is going outside, getting into nature, and just seeing what happens and really connecting. So I would love to ask you, if you don't mind me sharing, what is your little ritual that you do to ground into Mama Gaia before your sessions? I'm really curious, and I think everyone here might learn a little something on what to do when they do step outside.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually just am putting together an offering because I'm launching my new website next week, the 10 steps to remember your inner goddess, and it goes deeper into some of these like nature practices, but one that I'll share right now. So before the goddess session, I do a grounding womb meditation where I'm literally guiding a meditation where you're bringing your root down into the earth, and this is inspired by temple body art, so I'm sure you're
Oh, yes.
familiar.
I do this all the time.
So good. Yeah, really rooting down and putting your roots down into the earth and composting what no longer serves you. So any fears or anxiety that's coming up with being photographed, visually and literally pushing them down into the earth through your root and composting them, and then going down deeper and connecting to what your intention is, and letting yourself feel this connection with Mother Earth and pull this energy up through her and in to your womb space and Ahara if you're a man, because I do these sessions with men sometimes. But that is the most important thing to feeling truly grounded. And when people come out of it, they're just like, ah, you know, most of my sessions are barefoot. So they're really connecting through your feet too. Like we have all these nerve endings at the bottom of our feet. So getting barefoot and walking around is so, so potent. And one other thing I'll share with you, this is not necessarily related to the goddess sessions, but it's a practice that I do. I've done actually since I was a little girl, and I have a collection of photographs over time. I've always gone out either the ocean, the forest, and I collect in a basket or a bag or whatever I have all these like pieces that inspire me, and I'll create an offering to Mother Earth by making a mandala. So I'll make a spiral. And this is a really potent and beautiful practice because it's a lesson in impermanence, and that everything fades away and everything disappears. And especially if you're doing it in the ocean, you do it and then the tide comes up and washes it away after you spent 3 hours making a mandala. It like, I just tears of joy for me every single time. It's just such a powerful lesson. And there's been times where I'm creating these giant mandalas on the beach, and other people will come up and be like, hey, I found you something for your mandala, or like, hey, can I put something down? It just becomes this beautiful communal thing. And you can do this in the forest with like acorns and rocks and leaves, or even in your backyard, and just make it an offering to Mother Earth. And it's so potent and beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I actually do that all the time. I go down and I draw little hearts in the sand. When I'm in the forest, I like to stop and make little fairy houses out of the little leaves.
Yeah.
And I always wonder, I take a picture, then I wonder, is anyone else going to stumble upon this? Because I know when I do, especially, if there's rocks, I don't normally touch them. Like, okay, we're going to leave those there. But it's when I stumble across somebody who has left that sort of gift, it really does warm my heart, and it makes me feel that I have this connection with this other person, even if they're not there.
Mm-hmm.
So it is, and it is such an offering to Mother Nature. I loved what you said a moment ago too about thanking the earth. And I feel that we are moving into a time where we are finally coming back to the earth and realizing how important it is. And I know for some of us that our nature, which is many of the people in my group are like, wait a minute, but I love nature. I think we can all agree that there is a very large percentage of humans in the world that maybe they know that they love nature, and they kind of at a high level understand, we all go on vacation. That's the number one thing, right? I want to go on vacation and go on the beach. That's how we relax. But then people turn around and they're harming nature. They take it for granted. And I love what you said about honoring nature by thanking her. And my personal feeling is like when you have that connection to Mother Nature, when you create that love and you thank and appreciate her, she takes care of you right back, right?
Exactly. She's giving to us so much all the time. I mean, I can't count how many times I've gone into nature to release, and she takes it all. And how can
Yeah.
we really honor her and show her that love back?
Absolutely. What do you feel? We just talked about this a moment ago, but I do love the concept because I want to dive into divine masculine and feminine in a minute here. But I'll start with this is, we hear the words divine masculine, divine feminine. I think sometimes people hear those words and they're like, oh, I don't even know what that means. Sometimes they believe it's related to gender, which it's not. We're really talking about energy. We're really talking about the divine feminine energy and masculine energy within ourselves. And I was wondering if you would give us your definition of those two energies and how they work together within us and how they mingle within us.
Yes. Yeah, so it's like the yin and the yang, right? We have these two energies that are always flowing. I actually have a visual representation here of
I
a
love it.
flow,
Of
right?
course you
So,
do. That's amazing. That's amazing.
yeah. And for me, I've most of my life really been very in tune with my masculine side, like always a boss, a leader, own my own business, entrepreneur, go, go, go in that side. And I had, a deep divine feminine wound from other sisters, backstabbing, things from my childhood. And I feel like when I worked on the divine feminine, when I came in touch with my femininity, those two things started to line up and your life starts to feel more in balance. So you could be, you could have a lot of divine masculine and then your divine feminine is kind of out of whack. And then you can have a lot of divine feminine and then your divine masculine is out of whack. And there can be woundings on either side, and you need to go in and kind of feel the root of where these are coming from. And often they're like childhood wounds that you don't even realize it until you get into a deep meditation. And not only that, but lineages of ancestors before you that have
Mm.
these woundings that are passed on to you. So there's this so much inner work you can do to feel into. It's like the fish, you want them to be balanced. You don't want one or the other because it can show up in your life as something negative. There's like the dark side of the feminine or the dark side of the
Mm.
masculine. The dark side of the feminine could show up as like extreme jealousy. The dark side of the masculine could show up as like extreme rage or anger. So if you're not releasing or healing either side of those negative aspects can show up. And when you're in balance, it's great.
Yes, I love that. And I know that the first time I really got in touch with, I'm the same as you. I definitely grew up in the masculine dominant world. I wouldn't even call it divine masculine. What I grew up in was like the 80s, super toxic. I mean,
Yeah.
the 80s is so fun, but at the same time, so incredibly toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Materialism, definitely just misogyny. I mean, beyond belief. And I think so many of us women grew up in this world where we felt unsafe to be
Mm.
divine feminine. And this is a conversation I have with so many of my female friends is like, I don't feel safe because I'm in this world that completely disrespects women. And we're talking about the divine masculine. It's not just women, it's the disrespect of our own intuition,
Mm-hmm.
of our own inner wisdom. People think a lot and think that the information is out there and that you need to listen to somebody else and that you are powerless to do anything unless you are under someone else's control. Like that sort of toxic world is what I believe is going away. So I'm curious for you when you were coming into your feminine, because I do feel, I hear this from so many people and not just women, from men as well. Men also want to interact with their inner wisdom and their inner guidance, and they want to find that balance. And they are probably even more pressured to be quote unquote manly. But as we step into this divine feminine, as we learn to listen to our intuition, there is a lot of stuff to heal. And I'm wondering if you would be willing to share a little bit about what you've had to heal and the process that you went through, and like, how did you find safety ready to really step into that full divine feminine power and create that balance?
That's a really big one. I experienced sexual trauma when I was 15 years old. And that for me was like the biggest wounding into my divine feminine. And as I said before, just like, so much past stuff of like being backstabbed by sisters and not feeling comfortable with the feminine and feeling like I couldn't be in my sensuality or sexuality because I was scared it was going to happen to me again. And it was a huge fear for me. And I had to go inward and actually relive that moment and heal it and transmute it into something creative. Because if you think about trauma, right? We've all experienced trauma in our life. When we experience trauma, we don't have the tools to process it. It sits in our body in all these different places. So as I got more tools, meditation, yoga, all these different things, I realized that I could go back to when I didn't have those tools and unwire my brain, unwire the muscle memory of like pain and sexual abuse and all these things that had happened to me as a younger adult. And yeah, I feel that this is a very common thread, especially among females, especially when I'm doing these goddess sessions, is that there has been some sort of trauma that they are trying to unwind and undo, and bringing it to the surface, as painful as that can be, is what has transmuted that energy for me. So coming back to that space of like reliving what happened, crying, releasing, shaking, moving, dancing, like getting it out of my system and out of my body. And it's not just one practice. It's been years of practice over time to undo all of the things that have happened. And everyone has trauma, right? And it's a huge, huge undertaking, and it can feel overwhelming. But if you break it down to what exactly moment you're trying to heal within yourself, you can go in and release it. And it's such a beautiful experience. Once you release it, it can be incredibly powerful. It's so, so beautiful. And there's so many women in particular, and for men too, where our whole lives, right, growing up, we've been slammed with media, magazines of what we're supposed to look like what our bodies are supposed to look like, the body shaming of like being a little bit overweight, or like, which is completely normal, not having to look like this like skinny model twig. Like years of damage was done to so many women and men because of that, because of how we grew up and what we saw all of the time. And you have to go back and see that and be aware of it and change the way we are seeing things, because it just keeps going. It's like, yeah, the whole media thing is a huge part of these goddess sessions too, because especially women, we're taught that we have to be a certain way, and it's like you have to push past that and re-empower yourself to be beautiful as who you are. You can change how you look, but I don't necessarily recommend that. But you can change how you see yourself from within. Trust me. Like when I had body dysmorphia, I would look in the mirror and I saw something completely different than how anybody else saw me or how my camera saw me, because I started seeing myself as art, not as this like blob of like what the media told me I wasn't.
So beautiful. And I love that you're such a shining example. I'm like tearing up over here. I'm like, okay, here we go. I don't cry in all the episodes, you guys, but sometimes I'm just like, I'm feeling you so much. And thank you so much for that story, by the way. Thank you so much for sharing that and for being brave and for, sharing that your life and what you've been through. That's so courageous of you. And it's so inspiring, because if you guys saw Melissa's work, you're going to go look at her work later. You're going to book her for a session. And it's incredible to see that you have gone through so much, but how you were able to release it. And like you said, channel it into your creativity. And you look at the gorgeous imagery that we just saw a moment ago and the work. And not only that, but this is what's going to make me cry here, that you are helping these other women overcome this because of what you've gone through. And how does that feel to you to just know that this is probably why I came here for this, and it was hard, but like, look at what I can do with it.
Yeah, I mean, I have goosebumps all over my body just even talking about it. I'm so grateful that I did have all these experiences. And there is a long list of things that brought me to this point, and some of them were incredibly painful. And I am so grateful for every single thing that happened, because I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for those things. And I truly believe that everything that I went through happened for a reason, to get me to this point so that I can help others heal, and to share that art and nature can heal you and can bring your gifts into the world. Like, whatever you do desire to bring forth is possible despite what you've gone through in your life.
I think that is such a powerful message, because a lot of times people, again, are wondering, what is my soul purpose? What am I here for? Especially if you're younger, and realizing, I mean, this is my personal belief, so you guys take it if it resonates, but I agree with you. I do feel that everything that our soul planned, everything that we have gone through in order to get us into the person that we came here to be. And I know that that's a tough pill to swallow for some, because some people want to live in that victim mentality of like, how dare you say everything happens for a reason? Like, what I went through was awful. But if we can see at the light at the end of the tunnel, it's such an empowering shift to look at it in the way that you look at it, as like, I'm so grateful now that I've gone through these things, because look at how much power I have. Look at how much I shifted and changed. And I probably wouldn't have gotten here had I not only gone through it, but overcame it, and then moved into mentoring people. So let's talk a little bit about your mentorships, because you just started, which is online right now. And I think it's going to be hopefully a retreat in the future, but you just started hosting sessions that are, well, first of all, I want to actually mention this before we move away from the goddess sessions, that you did say that you were going to start hosting sessions for men as well.
Yeah, so I've been working with a coach myself and a mentor as well, and really diving deep and pulling the paint apart, taking the paint off everything and starting to repaint, and getting back to like the core boards of like what I really stand for and who I am. And I do identify as a queer person, and I don't really see gender, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't just be, these sessions have attracted more females, but I've never been like, these are for females only. Like, I've photographed trans people, I've photographed men before, but they're not the main people that are attracted to this offering. So I'm really felt called, and am feeling called, to be working more with the masculine and with men, to tap into their divine feminine, because I feel like this work is so needed right now. And even with my next, as we get into talking about mentoring, my next online retreat offering is going to be with my dear sister Donna Brickwood. We're going to be doing it with men and women, because I do feel at this time that it's time to bridge the male and the female, the masculine and the feminine together, so that we can do greater work with the world. I just see there's so many men's circles and women's circles, and I'm like, I want to bring it together. So not only in the goddess sessions, but also, beyond.
Absolutely. I was just saying that about my show, that I rarely have male guests. And for me, I personally am like, certain people are called to me. I think you contacted me, and of course I love you. I was like, yes, be on my show. And then I'm called to certain people, and it really has been a lot of women. But then last week I had a beautiful guest, my cousin Brad, on, which is amazing. And I am looking for, guys, if you're listening to this, I am looking for more men to be on my show, because I really agree with you that we have gone through our own, how I feel about it is we've gone through our own individual healings over the last few years. And I do realize that with the pandemic, and maybe people are just starting to go through their awakening right now, and that's understandable. But many people that are in the position that have healed, the position to be mentors, to teach others, and to walk this next wave of people through what's happening right now, I really am feeling strong partnerships forming between divine masculine and divine feminine. And like you said, that doesn't have to be a man and a woman. That could be any gender. It really is like, and in fact, it's two people coming together, or multiple people, or a group of people coming together that are all balanced in their own personal divine masculine and feminine. That's where it starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like that's what you're doing as well. You had mentioned that you found somebody that you wanted to work with. And I'd love to hear more about your retreat and, you know, what it is that you're guiding people through.
Yeah, so last year I did my first live retreat with dear sister Donna Brickwood, called Goddess Unveiled, and we had 20 women from ages 22 to like 77, and so we had
Wow.
all faces of the goddess represented, and it was so powerful. And I led a cacao ceremony and an ecstatic dance, and then my sister Donna did guided journeys and journal prompts. We had like a little goddess feast, and then we had a sacred fire activation. And then at the end, while everyone was sitting around the fire helping each other get adorned, I'd like, each woman would come and we'd do a goddess portrait. So it was like getting everyone all juiced up, and then we'd take these beautiful portraits. So that was so potent and powerful. And I just kind of like, whew, like, I want to keep doing this. I love facilitating. As I said before, I was a dancer for 10 years. So weaving like dance and then weaving cacao in as well. It's like all these things that I'm extremely passionate about, like weaving together. So all these different medicines. So it just takes you deeper and deeper onto this journey. And so I was supposed to do this retreat again in New York 5 weeks ago now, about a month and a half ago. And me and Donna decided we would transfer it to online. So we offered a 4-week program online, and we had 27 women from all over the world. It was super potent and powerful, and it felt really good. And, Donna and I have been talking, and we are, going to be birthing in mid-July after the retrograde. We're going to release our next retreat. We are just
which retrograde is the question.
Mercury. We're going to wait till Mercury retrograde calms down a little bit, and then launch our next offering, which will be online. And then the goal is, when it's safe and when the time comes, we're going to be doing these more in person as well, in New York and in Oregon, and hopefully in Costa Rica eventually as well.
Oh, I love that. I just feel that so many people right now are moving to create retreats, in-person retreats. I know myself, I'm working on one as well. It really is coming back to nature. And what I love, again, is that I feel that you and I were participating in Sophia Tom's, which I'm trying to get her on the show, you guys. Sophia Tom is an amazing, incredible goddess, mentor, coach who is just, I mean, I can't even describe her. Goddess is the only word I can really think of. Otherworldly creature that Melissa and I both trained with Temple Body Arts. And what I loved, I had Sarah on the show, I had Gia on the show, is just watching all of these women come forward and birth their own creations. And that's something that Sophia teaches. And that is a perfect example of the mentor learning. She's gone through what she's gone through. She turned around and mentored all of these women. We were her very first group in Costa Rica. And then we are now, years later, we had to go through our own transformation. And now we are turning into the new wave of mentors. And I just love that cyclical process of like, you go through the thing, you learn from your mentor, you gather all of your wisdom and strength, and then you go out into the world and you help others. And I mean, it just seems like you're doing that, which I absolutely love. And if you had like to boil down your retreat or your teachings right now that you're called to. We know that things change as we transform, but is there like a message that's like, when you work with me, like this is what I'm really helping mentor you? Because I know we got that with Sophia, and then I'm curious if you've come up with your like, okay, this is what I'm teaching you.
Yeah, it definitely is about diving into your intuition and your creativity, right? And moving forward for our next one is really, birthing the next round of mentors. Because for me, it's so
Mm.
beautiful to teach people and to empower people to go and do their own offerings, right? So, what are the sacred tools that you need to get rid of all these blockages for you to offer your unique gifts with the world? And for me, that comes through intuition and creativity and how we spark and add flames to that which is with already in us. And I think meeting in group, whether that's online and using your voice, is such a huge, powerful tool. Speaking your truth. I remember when I first did Sophia's program, I think like 3 years ago now, I was so nervous to speak on camera. Like, look at me now. I'm like talking and it feels
I
normal, but
know, right?
my chest used to get like bright red and I hated, I wouldn't even do Instagram live. Like, I did not like that at all. And I just love to empower people to like get over all these hurdles so that they can give their unique expression and find their soul purpose and feel empowered to share it with the world. And I really started diving deeper into one-on-one mentoring as well after I started doing these goddess sessions. And then the women would reach out and be like, cool, what do I do with these photos now? And it's like, I have, 12 years of self-employment business entrepreneur knowledge, right? So why not use that to help women birth their businesses or empower them to bring more spirituality into the businesses that they already have? A lot of people that I've worked with too are like psychologists, right? Where they're just go in with their notebook and it's very like you get taught a certain way in school of how you have to be, but how can we use spirituality and sacred items and tools to go deeper, to like light incense, to create the space, to, have a singing bowl? Like, what are your sacred tools that are going to help you, move forward or deeper into your offering? And I feel very inspired by supporting women in marketing, business, making their already businesses go deeper into the spiritual realm. So that's kind of what I've been doing as far as mentoring goes.
Oh, I absolutely love that. So I I also have to share that it's really fascinating because I was an actor and a host, and I don't think anyone would ever guess this about me, but when I was growing up, I was terrified to speak in front of people. Like we had those situations in school and high school where it's like, get up and read your report or get up and read this thing you wrote. And I just remember freaking out, like just like hyperventilating. My mouth went dry. I mean, it was like I was going to vomit. I was in like plays, and every time I went out there, I was like, I can't, I'm going to vomit. And I love what you said, because I think what it really comes down to is that first of all, that's ego too. You're thinking like, I care about what everyone thinks. I care about what people are going to say about me. They're going to judge me. And that's another thing, that as you go through this process, as you uncover your truth and you heal, that's the big portion there is you're teaching men and women how to heal themselves so that they feel comfortable in their own skin, in their own body. And then it's so surprising, like you just said, like for me, for you, to just see people go out there and all of a sudden you're like, where did that person come from? Right? And how often do you see that with these people that you're teaching? Their journey, even in like the week or the few weeks that you're working with them, go from like maybe this quiet, shy, I don't want to step out there, to like, I'm me.
It's so beautiful and it's so inspiring to see that over and over again. And I'm in awe of all the women in the Temple Body Arts program and all the women that I've mentored and that I've seen my
Mhm.
friends mentor that have just grown so much. It just fills my heart.
Oh, I love that. Do you have any particular stories? Now, I know you don't have to say who, but do you have any stories that really touched you where it's like, I had a client they were really here when I first started working with them, when I first met them. And like, I just watched their journey because I love personal stories. I think that's so
Mm.
relatable.
There's a couple. The one that's sticking out the most is a girl I've been mentoring for the past year. And when she first came to me, she was struggling from like very, very intense sexual traumas. And we did a lot of like womb work, and whew, it was so heavy. And I just saw her slowly open up over time and almost like crack open, right? When we crack open, yeah, it hurts and, you know, all the gunk comes out, but then it's like that wound heals, right? And it
Mm.
becomes even stronger and stronger. And now she's actually guiding her own meditations. So that for me was like, wow. And she's offering it and getting out there. And it's so, so beautiful because she feels inspired to help other women as well, women that have gone through sexual trauma, right? So it's going back to like what we've experienced that might have necessarily we thought was bad or terrible, and turning it and transmuting it into something that you can share and offer to the world.
I mean, how incredible is this human existence when you really think about it?
Oh,
When you really see how powerful it is to stand in your power, to help other people, and then watch that. I mean, it's like, "Oh, my baby's growing up." You know, it's like watching your children.
mhm.
How incredible is this human experience that we get to come and do this? I mean, I really do feel that we are here for this right now. And I'd love your opinion on, you know, you're doing this work, you've done this work on yourself. We've all done this work on our personal selves over the last few years. You are now mentoring other people. You are now teaching them to be seen and to go out into the world. And I'm curious if you have visions of what the world would look like if we all did this, if we all healed, if we all stepped into our power, if we all created balance. What's your vision for the earth? How do
Oh,
you want to leave? How do you want to leave the earth? What is the legacy that you hope that you can leave or that you hope to see before, you know, we, which is a long time from now, guys, before we exit this planet?
mm, that's a big question. I think what's coming through the most is that all beings feel empowerment and feel comfortable and connect to their innocence and create a new relationship with how they see themselves, so they do feel empowered to share their gifts with the world. And in turn, feeling that way inward projects outward, so that we do take better care of our Mother Earth, that we plant, that we take care, that we grow. We have, gosh, I see the world with many, many green spaces with edible food, trees everywhere in the street, so that no human is hungry, and that every
Mm.
being has the feeling of freedom and never has the feeling of hunger. Ooh. Yeah. And that we can all share this work with one another.
Beautiful. And I really see that as well. Again, you know, we started off in our little group and then we saw those people expand into their groups and those people are going to expand. And I really do feel that that's why we're here is to help one another. And I feel that that is the compassion rising in all of us. Our souls came here to show us that we are one, that we are, it's all about unity and compassion and helping one another. Um, is there any advice that you would give to somebody really struggling with the current climate in respect to this, in respect to like, this is how I see the future. This is how I know you can heal yourself. There's a lot of people that are, you know, struggling with the systematic injustices. Obviously, we know that they're breaking and they're hopefully going away, but there's a lot of people still struggling to find that truth. There's a lot of people that are stuck inside with themselves. And I mean, is there any advice that you could give somebody just where to start? Where do we, when they're like, my life is crumbling, I don't know what to do, where would they even start? Besides
Mm.
hiring you, of course.
I think the most important thing for me on my journey of healing has been daily ritual. So
Mm.
have one thing every morning that is consistent for you. And for me, that looks like having my cup of cacao, putting on music, and moving my body every single day, moving the stagnant energy out of my body. That looks like either meditation, free movement dance, doing some yoga, throwing on a YouTube video. There's so many tools online that are for free that you can just hop on YouTube and type in bedtime yoga or good morning yoga and have this like beautiful class right in front of you inside. And even if you don't have a computer or a phone or anything, you can still move your body. Even if you don't have music, you can still move your body. You can shake, you can stretch, you can listen and go inward and really feel how your body wants to move and connect with that. Because I truly feel that movement is such a huge, huge, huge part of healing.
And that really goes back to where we started. We're talking about reconnecting to the earth, is that our bodies are our physical vessels. We are souls having a human experience in these bodies. We chose what they were going to look like. We chose our lives, and this is like such an important vessel to take care of. And I think a lot of times, I'm seeing this more and more, which is fantastic, but there are a lot of practices where it's like meditation, or you're going out there, you're going out into the astral and you're really clearing, and that is so important. But I feel it is also important to embody those practices in our physical body. And as a dancer, how important is that to you to really take care of your physical being, knowing that like this is the reason I'm here? I always say that my body couldn't, I mean, you can't live without your body. You
Mm-hmm.
have to nourish it and drink water, and you have to go out in nature, but this is your physical presence here.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we have. This is what we're gifted with, right? And it's so important to take care of it. As you were saying, drinking water every day, having I practice a vegan diet, but practicing a diet that maybe cuts out some meat and dairy, and seeing how that feels for you and paying attention to everything you're consuming and putting in your body, and not only what you eat, but what you're listening to, what you're watching,
Mm.
what is around you. If you're watching Fox News every day and hearing the fear, then you become the fear. If you're listening to beautiful mantras every day about love, then you become love. So our reality is manifested all around us. So you create your own reality. And I know we've heard this a lot, but as many times as I say it and I hear it, I'm like, oh, thanks for the reminder. We create our own reality. So if I'm like feeling depressed, then, I have a choice to stay in that. And sometimes it's really hard and you just want to stay in bed all day, or you force yourself to go outside for a walk and take your shoes off and connect to the earth, and you feel better. And I am a true believer in nature and, as I said, movement really being the two catalysts for my personal healing. And I've seen it so many times in other people as well. And I just really, truly believe that that is very potent.
It really is. I love what you said earlier as well. And I'm going to end with this, and then I'm going to ask you for words of wisdom. But what you said earlier is so important. I mean, everything you said during this episode has been phenomenal, and you're such a gift, and you're so wise, and you've gone through so much. And I love that you're bringing your light. And again, what you said is, I'm just going to point it out, you guys are watching it right here on my show, is when you heal, when you go through the process of reconnecting to yourself, using nature as a tool for healing, when you heal those wounds, you become this light that heals others. And a lot of times you don't even have to do anything. Even if you don't feel called to go out and teach or mentor, that's okay. Sometimes we want to step out and say, what can I do? And I think right now there's a lot of people like, what can I do? How can I help? How can I be an ally? How can I do this? When really, when you connect to love, self-love, you will automatically expand your light and shine, and everyone that comes into contact with you or sees you is going to feel it. And I feel, Melissa, just looking at you right now, the people that are watching this episode are really going to feel that. They're going to be like, wow, this woman is just, it's like you have this light shining in from the window, but really it's like, this beautiful, beautiful light. And you're just such a testament to doing the work and why it's important to do the work and how it is fed into an amazing work that you then turned around and created and are still creating. And I just absolutely love watching your journey. Oh.
Thank you. You too, sister.
Now, to end this episode, I'm curious if you have any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with the world that's watching.
No pressure, right?
Yeah. You can say a bunch of things. I'm saying one thing. No, no pressure.
I think connecting to nature, as we were saying, and healing yourself in whatever way feels good, and taking the space and time to really dive within, even if it feels heavy or scary, going into those shadows and really seeing and sitting with them and letting them process and come through, and finding what it is that you is your tool for transmuting, right? So for me, it's the camera, right? I can transmute anything into my camera and art comes out. I mean, it's not that simple. It's not like click a button and the art comes out. What is your sacred tool? Is it singing? Is it speaking and having these beautiful talk shows? Is it writing? Is it blogging? Is it making video blogs? Is it reaching out to friends and family and supporting them? Like there's endless things, and like really just taking that time to go within and heal the shadows and see what wants to come through those past experiences, through our traumas, through all these things that may have been terrible in our lives. Use what you have been given to create and manifest what you desire into the world.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Melissa, for being here today. I love you. I adore you beyond belief. If you guys are watching this, like I said earlier, I'm going to be posting her links in the description. I highly recommend you go to her website, you go to her Instagram, follow, like. You're going to get, she has a new website up, which I'll link to, so that you're going to get information about upcoming classes. You can subscribe to her newsletter, so you'll find out about all of those things. Thank you so much for being here. And for all of you watching from the Magic Grove, thank you for watching our weekly show. We do this every Friday. You can find us at themagickgrove.com. That is magic with a K. The links are going to be below as well. And every Friday, we live stream this in the Facebook group. So if you want to come participate and you want to speak to our guests, you are more than welcome to come. Just click on the little button and ask to join, and I'll add you. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a beautiful week.
Thank you.